There's our no continuance. That's right. Sorry for the $5 word. That's right. Did they give you a quote to replace it? For both sections? Sure. Okay. 60's not bad to do the one side, both sections. You can't use bond money for paint. I know. We do it all the time.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'd like to welcome all to this evening's meeting of the Lakeview Public Schools Board of Education today, Tuesday, August 15th, 2023, 7:30 p.m. at the boardroom at the Weed Educational Campus. I'd like to, for the record, note that Mr. Miners, Ms. Martin, and Mr. Miscali are out this evening on personal items. So we will move forward with the four of us. And to the minutes of the regular meeting of July 11, 2023.
Move for approval?
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bear, support by Ms. Taylor. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Secretary, have we any public communication this evening?
I see no public communication before me.
Thank you, sir. Board of Education Administration comments.
I'd like to make one comment. I was very excited. As everybody here knows, my daughter's attending the University of Michigan this year. She leaves on the 23rd. We got her transcript going in, and she is starting with 32 credit hours because of Lakeview Public Schools, dual enrollment and AP courses. So she is starting as sophomore and saving me $35,000. So thank you, everyone who was involved in that.
And she earned it.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Any other comments? I have comments, but I'll save them for later in the agenda when we get to the bond work. Administration, any comments this evening?
Sure. We are right in the last minute of getting school ready, and our staff, we're filling in some staff positions officially this evening, later on, and we have buildings getting final cleaning and kitchens getting prepped, we hope, and we have, projects finishing and some continuing through the school year. New ideas starting, and I'll add some of that with my goals later, but.
I would just add to Mr. Paulson's comments that we are back in full-blown getting ready. We've had some wonderful trainings that have been happening the last couple weeks for various employee groups, including our leadership principal group that was today and tomorrow. things including instructional practices, CPI training, CPR, safety and security. So lots of different topics that will have us prepared to have a great year. We did officially close for School of Choice on Friday of last week, but we are still open for residents. They are able to come and register at any point in the year. We are finalizing placements of some of those School of Choice families that came in last week. So if people have not heard of their building placements, that's happening over these next couple of days. And the buildings are starting to come along and look good, and people are being hired and filling classrooms, so it's exciting times around here, and it's nice to be part of our organization.
I just want to talk a little bit about the food service program. Many have heard, folks that are watching from home, that we are going to have free breakfast and lunch for all students for the 23-24 year. And it would not be normal if there was not some red tape attached to it. So there's more information that's coming. I saw Mr. Paulson had sent out a letter to families. We're going to be in a limbo state where some of our buildings are going to have a different way of submitting application than the other buildings. But that being said, just wanted to let know everybody and all the families that we still do need the applications and/or the forms that's going to be required to be filled out, because it helps us get funding in other areas such as Title I, at-risk, and many other funding that we get to help further the educational programs for the kiddos here at the district. So just wanted to mention that. And also, as the ship is sailing for the 23-24 year, we're having the audit going on right now for the 22-23 year. So the business office folks are kind of one leg in each ship. So we've all been working really hard to get ready for the auditors. They're here this week, and so far everything's go well. So I just want to give some kudos to my business office team as we're gearing up with the food service team for the new year. So just want to mention that.
Awesome. Yeah, I do want to say that in my tours of the district, it's pretty impressive to see the work that's been done to date and the accomplishments bond-wise at Greenwood and Harmon. 2 years ago when they started at Ardmore and Princeton, the starting point was very slow, and the brickwork and everything else took forever. And those two buildings, they're pretty much, it appears they're pretty much done with all the block work, which is, they're almost a year ahead, which is pretty awesome. So that much I will say is very appreciated, and it's duly noted. But as far as one of the other ones, it's we'll talk about that one later. So, any other comments? No? Okay, great, thank you. Item E, draft superintendent's 2022-2023 goals discussion.
So it is not 22-23, it is 23-24, just to make that a little minor correction for you.
True.
The goal statements that we have for myself that are reflective of the district fall within the strategic plan 5 pillars: teaching and learning, character, leadership, and service, community engagement, learning environment, and financial stability. I won't go through all of those items that you have in front of you, but I will highlight a couple. The idea that we hired a number of staff last year and through the year, kind of with the postings, knowing what the grant funds were and things of that sort. Those positions, then we start evaluating and refining what the tasks are that they complete. And a lot of that is for learning loss and instructional gaps. So the work that's been going on through the year, last year, setting up the data collection and the sort of interventions and the various assessments to try to determine how successful those positions are being, because we, long-term, maybe they're forever. And we have to be able to, make note of that within a year or two. So a lot of that work is behind the scenes. Families don't see it. Individual students might see it, and teachers are well aware of it because they're, working collaboratively with those new staff in those supporting roles and doing good work. We're also expanding some of that work from just academics to also including behavior. New positions again, hired through the year last year. We call them behavior specialists. They're assisting staff. They've been running a number of the trainings this summer. New to Lakeview, but not new to the profession in the behavior specialist sense. So we've been fortunate to find staff that are going to fulfill those roles who have good experiences in prior places, and now they're at their destination district, I'll say, in being in Lakeview. In character, leadership, and service, those overlap a little bit, of course, because the behavior work is going to be intertwined with some of the academic work, and working on the concepts of restorative practices and how students, how we can help students understand their behavior, prevent it in the future, and stay focused on the academic part, as well as growing those character traits and soft skills, because kids need those as well. Community engagement, I think the big project this fall is going to be tying back to the non-homestead vote. In the past, prior to COVID, PTOs knew me as a frequent guest, not just during election seasons, but throughout the year. I'd stop at each one, usually calendar one, and just visit with them and let them do Q&A and that kind of thing. So we'll get back to that, with the motivation, particularly in the fall, is tying back to, informing people to know what the non-homestead vote even is, because it doesn't happen very often. But it's necessary for our budget. About $2.5 million, I think, is the local collection, somewhere in there, and the 18 mills. And we're going to continue being creative in terms of being able to help families engage with the school. I know the special ed department was doing meetings with new families via Zoom because it's convenient. And something simple like that, just an orientation to get to know you, is okay to do by Zoom. Parent-teacher conferences, some prefer Zoom, some don't. So we have both offered. Those are sort of, creative different ways of using the technology we have available now. The learning environment, of course, is very important. We'll have bond projects. We'll continue through probably summer of '25 even, based on the work we think we're going to do in the beginning of '24. But when all that's done, we're going to have, updated facilities. We're going to have elementary schools that don't look like 1955. They're going to look like 2000-something, at least. So those are good, important things. Safety and security has been a big part of that. Even just traffic flow, on those sites. We didn't have parking really at those sites for all those years. And we accommodated and made it work, but it's going to improve things, and that's going to improve safety of kids too. And you're not crossing traffic or crossing a parking lot by walking up to the school. And then, of course, some of the things behind the scenes to help the atmosphere, the spirit and culture. Now that you're able to have people come back and visit and be involved in school, post-COVID, we'll have, the schools doing more of those types of things to, engage families and get them in participating in things. Financial stability, I noted in the note tonight to families, we have, audits that have been clean for 30 years, I think Don Wheaton suggested, because the board and this leadership team have been very prudent about how to use the community's funds. And even though it's not really the community's funds except for that local collection, because it's really a collection of state and income tax and sales tax and stuff that goes to Lansing and it comes back to us through the head count, I think it's important for us to be good stewards of those public funds. And we have been, and we have great credit ratings as a result of that good work. The business office leads and, our staff follow and comply with. And you have to have systems in place to keep track of that and do it well. And we are and do. And of course, the future design work and the future projects that are going to get bid probably in the next few weeks or month are going to then be another source of, some headaches and some cheers and some other things when it's all said and done. We'll have great new facilities and be able to sustain them because of the way we have budgeted over the long term. So, any questions on the goal statements that are there? And I didn't have anybody email me any suggestions or questions or comments, so.
There's so much going on as it is. Geez, good stuff. Any comments? No?
as we've done in the past, it'll be back in front of you in September, and you can approve them or accept them or whatever it is we call it. All right? Very good. Thank you.
Sounds good, thank you. Okay, moving on with the agenda, item F, appointment of MASB delegate.
Michigan Association of School Boards Delegate Assembly in the Fall 2023 Conference will begin Thursday, November 9th in the Lansing Center in Lansing. Lakeview is allowed to have 3 voting delegates and 3 alternates if someone's going to attend. Yeah. I see Pete pointing to somebody missing.
Okay, we have Ms. Taylor for 1, and I think we can still pose the question to the other 3 that
Sure.
are not here tonight and see if there's interest, so, thank you. Okay, item G, bond project status update.
So, we have our reps here from PI Partners in Architecture and our rep here from Bart Mallow. I was just mentioning in the hallway to Darren that the board received the summary of the potential future projects that are the estimates. Those are the priority list items you discussed, months ago. And we needed to sort of see where our status was on the projects that were underway and getting the bids back for the 2 elementaries that are now underway before we moved forward with design. And then the final designs aren't done yet, but the idea that we're close enough financially that there's no reason I can see that we wouldn't go forward and get final designs and bids and not just have an estimate, but an actual number in a couple of months or thereabouts, so that you can decide later in the fall, we're going to do this. And obviously, we've seen Jefferson's expansion complete. We've seen the work at Ardmore and Princeton. We have site work done at Harmon and Greenwood already. We have the additions and the office complexes at Ardmore and Princeton, pretty close to complete. And now we have Harmon and Greenwood underway, well underway. And so, those future projects would be the high school stadium, basically the whole stadium, track, turf, and a new set of home bleachers and a press box. And then auditorium, lighting and sound work, pool, mechanical and cosmetic work, and then miscellaneous other things, playgrounds at the elementaries and the preschool, and some other miscellaneous things that are coming down the road. So I guess we offer our construction team here to answer questions or respond to concerns on projects that are underway or future potential projects and the like. Right?
I would just add the pool mechanical equipment, pool mechanical units, HVAC, that whole area is in that number to be completely removed and replaced, along with that east lot that separates the building from the athletic field. So that would all be done. Okay, good, okay. And yeah, a couple months would be probably on the quick side as far as actually having bids in front of you. We're not gonna get Daryl's team our first package of the athletic field drawings in the parking lot until next month. Hopefully earlier in the month versus later, but we're working on getting that done. Then the interior work inside the high school and a couple other minor things would come as a second package, probably a month later.
Do you anticipate the parking lot being somewhat similar to the way it is now? I mean, that's gone through many iterations over the years with an island in there where cars went around, and is it pretty much going to be as is?
It is, for a couple of reasons. One is if you add more parking, then the city wants to get involved and they want you to put in detention basins or underground detention. The only area that would be proposed to be changed would be where that ticket booth is. We're putting a new ticket booth in, and so we're creating another pad of concrete to be able to queue up, because you're now going to have 1,800 seats potentially, right? And they're all going to be lining up on that side now. And so that alumni garden has some pavement around it. We're going to add more so they can queue up a little easier, and you'll lose a couple of parking spots. But I think you have to be able to have that ability to line up there on that north side.
The existing ticket booth, is going to stay, correct?
Yeah, there's going to be, we're going to add a second ticket booth, so the
Okay.
ticket booths will be kind of facing each other right there, and so you'll have the windows on each ticket booth will be like this, and you would have people to be able to walk through and get tickets on each side.
Are they gonna
Because
be-
that will be now the main entrance
Right.
versus what we've got, a big double gate, and we set up two tables, so.
So the new ticket booth would be similar in looks to the one that's there now, or is this going to be something entirely?
No, I think it would be,
Match it exactly as much as we can, because they're gonna literally.
Face
do
one
like a
another.
mirror image of each other.
Awesome.
There'll be new gates in between, they come up and get your tickets, then you go through the gates.
So now those people that built that ticket booth, they said that would last 100 years. This year's going to,
No maintenance, 100 years.
Yeah. It's holding up well, it just needs to be clean.
there you go.
That's good.
All right. Ardmore, what a mess. What a disappointing mess. You know, we were here almost a year ago talking about safety and the looks of the properties, and I had your assurance that we wouldn't be having this problem again, and here we are. The problem existed again. And the people that were taking the heat is Sean and Carl for me all the time. They get my text messages, and they're probably thinking, oh my God, here he goes again. Now what's up? And you had assured us that you would make sure that those properties were buttoned up every night. I'm speaking of Princeton as well, because that was a problem a year ago. And Ardmore. Now, while they were working on the roof, they would take sections of the gate down, not put them back at the end of the night. So it's a wide open for the kids to go running in there. Plus, with the rains that we had, they had that skyjack or whatever it is that drive through there. They didn't care. They just went in, they put ruts in there that were 12, 18 inches deep. And it was just be a mess. And they'd run it all over that front, and you can see much of it still exists. Who's going to fix all that at whose cost? In my eyes, we shouldn't have had that happen. You know, most companies put down plywood so that you could provide the least interruption or disruption to the property. But this is just a mess. And the steel that they took off around the perimeter of the building, they just piled it up. The gates were wide open. Kids could go running in there, cut their hands wide open, cut their feet wide open, thinking they could climb on it. Just a mess. Total disappointment. Now, you look at the other two buildings that are in process right now, as I noted earlier, that's looking pretty awesome. Good work going on there. But for whatever reason, nobody's looking at Ardmore. And apparently nobody cares. Because if somebody cared, we wouldn't be dealing with this like right now. So yes, the gates are locked now. Yeah, they poured some concrete, finally. And it's getting closer to being safe, but for the longest time, unsafe, over and over again. And in a company like Barton Mallow, safety should be number one, not only for their employees, but communities like ours, and the kids and the parents that use those properties. If they don't belong in that area, it should be fenced off. And in my eyes, they shouldn't belong in that area. And you have a couple little kids go walking through there and they twist their leg and break their ankle, getting caught in one of those ruts. Come on. So I'd like to hear, you know, let's not confuse effort with results. What happened, or not?
So the restoration for the roofing contractor will be handled by the roofing contractor. We left the fence up and the roofing contractor, it's a owner contract, and so that, you know, is being handled by the district. The site work is happening on that site. You know, unfortunately, ran into a legal issue with the contractor. The contractor was acquired by an out-of-state LLC. Our risk management department flagged that, unfortunately, right around May. So what that means is that currently that contract, the district does not have a contract with that contractor. So we worked through those issues, which is why you're seeing the activity happening now. And so which is why the concrete's poured. And by mid-next week, all of those sites will be ready for students, graded, cleaned up, fences down, ready for the start of school. That will happen by mid-next week.
Okay, when you say graded, does this mean they're going to tear it all out and just level it all out with dirt? It's just going to be dirt for the fall, or are you going to be?
Leveled out, seeded, hay, and this is the perfect time to do that. So typically, we will wait till the fall to seed it. So we'll come in and restore it with topsoil, and then we'll come in and seed it afterwards. And you typically wouldn't want to do that in the summer because you'll end up with weeds for the most part. So waiting till the fall is the opportune time to do it so that you're not coming back at some point in the future and seeding again.
So when do you anticipate the grading to start?
The grading's going to start on Tuesday.
A week from today?
Correct.
Okay. And the fences will come down once the grading is done. Once it's all level, it's not unsafe anymore, and
Both sides of the concrete all around both buildings will be graded and completed by the 23rd.
what's the plan with those two benches that are stacked up on one another in that area?
We'll get reinstalled at the same time, correct.
Oh, you guys will take care of that?
Yes, absolutely.
Where are they going? Along the sidewalk to the, off of Greater Mac? Okay.
Yeah, our site superintendent will spot that with, you know, where they're shown on the drawings and do that with the building principals to make sure they're in the right locations.
Okay.
Mr. Dombrowski, the metal you're talking about, is that from the roof edge metal?
Yeah, it's all the edging around. That was piled up there for over a week, and then it finally disappeared about the time I was getting on these guys.
Environmental team notified the roofing contractor, which is not under their purview. They're coordinating the site, but that was a separate contractor. That's just doing the roofing.
Okay,
That did that and created the ruts.
okay. Then who's managing the
But they're-
contractors?
All of those ruts will be fixed as part of the restoration of the rest of the additions, absolutely.
Because when, somebody has to be managing these projects. And who's ever managing the projects are the ones that should be held accountable for this. And they should be holding their vendors accountable. That's why we're paying 50-some million for all this work to be done, is for other people to do it and do it right and do it safe.
Absolutely.
We're coordinating with the roofing contractor to make sure it hits, but it's been a challenge, for sure.
Who's going to pay for this restoration of the property?
That's part of the contractor's contract to repair whatever ruts they make in order to move materials to the roof. So that's built into the contract you already have. It's not additional cost.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And,
Just,
you know, I understand your concerns, and I'm fortunate with the site work contractor we ran into, the issue we ran into. You know, we could have moved on to somebody else, but that would have been at a cost to the district, so we chose to stay with the contractor we had, work through this, you know, acquisition issue, which is why we're seeing some activity now. So, understand the concerns and just the view of things sitting incomplete there, you know, basically for the month of July. But we've managed to get through those. We have commitments from the contractor, and if they can't perform, then someone else will step in and complete it for the start of school.
you know, and you're dealing with the contractors, you know, I'm being a bit selfish here on behalf of the community. It's not my problem. It's your problem.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And, you know, when the issues come up, we deal with them, we communicate them to Sean and Carl to make sure they're aware and, you know, work through whatever comes up.
Okay. Yeah, because Sean and Carl should not be taking arrows for you guys. I have their numbers. I don't have yours.
I'll share it with you. Yeah, you can call me back. Save them the trouble, I'll fix it right away, yeah. Just gonna include you on it. Yeah, for sure. And, you know, the promise that I did make at the last time we were here is that the next projects would be different, and that, you know, we talked about masonry at that time, and we made sure that we hit the streets at the right time to get the right amount of competition. We had a ton of competition on that project. You know, I think we paid the right price for it. We came in under budget on those projects. The contractors were fully vetted, and we're seeing the results of that now in the current projects. Now, they're not without their challenges. I mean, we did, you know, Sean, I think, is going to talk about an underground storage tank a little later that we ran into that, you know, will have some, you know, it will have delay on that specific addition. But, you know, I hope that, you know, we're seeing the kind of the fruits of that labor coming true in the next set of additions. Now, that doesn't mean we can't get these last ones put behind us, and they will be put behind us for the start of school this year. You know, I'm sure there's going to be something when the principals get in there that requires attention, whether that's like punch list or warranty items. And, you know, just like I'm sitting here today, you know, taking whatever the issues are, and, you know, we'll be there in those buildings to make sure that when those are officially said and done, that everybody's happy with them. And hopefully that by making that commitment in the end, that, you know, whatever we went through in the past will be, you know, will be seen as that we stayed there till the end to make sure that it was the way the district wanted it. And just one last thing on that is you know, the change management on that project has been been less than, in spite of, what those projects have been, we've done fairly well in that area. So from a cost standpoint, I mean, between Partners and Architecture and Barton Mallow, I mean, the contractor's been held accountable. The district has not paid more than what would be, has paid less than what would be expected on a renovation project, addition project like that. So, in a lot of other areas, we've done really well, and I know on the schedule standpoint on those, we wished it could have been better, but I think in the end, the community and the board got what they were looking for in those projects. And, any issues you guys have, come to me, and then we'll take care of them, for sure.
Okay.
Well, we also saw some carpentry delays and issues with that vendor on the Arbor in Princeton, and that was, way back months and months ago. But that continued to some degree as it, one thing manifested to another.
I assume some of these these contractors that have been problematic are not part of this next
Not
phase,
part of the next one, correct.
being Greenwood and
Harmon
Harmon.
Totally different
Greenwood.
groups.
Tell them they can't bid, but,
We determine the lowest qualified bidder.
correct.
And qualified means experience.
Qualified is the key word there.
It's not typically in our nature to come and complain about contractors, and it's our job to make them finish the job, and that's where we're at right now, is making them finish the jobs.
Or, in some cases, bring in another contractor to finish it for them because they can't. In the case
Right.
of the carpenter.
Or they're not being timely enough.
Yes, yeah, they're back charging them to have another contractor do it because they couldn't get it done.
Any reasonable person would have to say, I get it when it comes to change orders, like this tank that we're going to be talking about later. These things do happen. There are hidden things that you're just not aware of, and it does come up. That's why we have contingencies out there to cover some of that, hopefully all of it, nothing that big. But, that's where we depend on your experience and your professionalism and you making it right.
Yeah.
So, thank you for all that, but, we have,
We gotta get those behind.
we have to get some issues behind us here, and once we get in the free and clear, then we'll all be much more comfortable, and the kids are back in school, and everything is safe, and we're taking advantage of all the new things going on, and there's a lot more to go yet.
And I think on, going from Arbor and Princeton to Harmon and Greenwood, I think from a design standpoint, we've been able to learn from some of the hidden conditions that we found at those buildings that we've been able to address on these. From a site logistics standpoint, we've been able to become more efficient at putting those up. I mean, those 3 small additions on each side of the building like that are challenging. You run into one little issue, and next thing you know, you're trying to move entire crews over to the other side of the building. So I think we've learned from some past mistakes, and that's why we're seeing those Harmon and Greenwood come together faster.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any comments from the board?
I just have like a couple questions. I'm looking at the Lakeview High School locker room, and it says 248,000 square feet. Well, there's a 248,245 square feet. That's really what we have in locker rooms? Square foot?
I'm not sure what you're looking at.
Oh, I'm sorry. This estimate summary report?
Yeah, so I think they're taking the total square footage and taking each one of those categories and dividing it by the total square footage, if I,
Of the building.
yes.
Oh, okay.
locker rooms are not nearly that.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that's a really large locker room. Okay, all right. Well, I just wanted to double check it. The other thing I had a question about is with respect to the field and the new bleachers and the new turf. Are we going to be using the old bleachers for anything? I guess that's more to,
Yeah, we're going to basically relocate, the home site is going to be along 11 Mile. So it's going to be new bleacher, new press box, 1,800 seats. The current home bleachers, which are about 9-something, is a perfect visitor side bleacher. So those are staying, we're not doing anything with that, but we're going to make the 11 Mile side the home bleachers and make it kind of the way it's supposed to be.
So you moving the concession stand then?
That is above my pay grade, Mr. Dombrowski.
A set of bleachers on the press box side now that we're welcome to take off.
Yeah.
Anybody who wants them can take them.
They were a donation from City Ice Arena, thanks to Mr. Bear, right? Your cousin, or
The company you work for.
when they close down, they donate them to the district, and that's what we've kind of used on our visitor side. So I'll be glad when those are gone, and We have nice bleachers over there.
Excellent. And my other question was, with respect to the turf that's coming up, is there, like, have you put it up to bid? Like, I
It'll
know a
be in-
lot of the interior places that have like field houses and stuff use old turf.
Yeah, this is going to be bid. It'll be a brand-new, it'll be bid out with the bid pack.
But I'm talking about the old stuff. Are we reselling that to anyone? I mean, I know a lot of these interior places use
I
that.
don't know if we haven't discussed
Okay.
because typically the company who would pull it up would be responsible for disposal, correct?
Okay.
Remove the material that's like a rubber sand
Yeah,
mix that
they
you
just suck it out or whatever.
suck that out, roll it up and take them with them.
Okay, so they may
They may
resell.
sell it to offset some of their costs. but
Okay,
It'll be.
thank you.
Its age, I think it's 15 years now.
2008.
It may not be, it's got pretty many down. It's probably
I've been
probably
to,
15 years to replace this next round.
I've been to some pretty bad indoor facilities that could use some that looks that good.
The bidders, I mean, the bidders are going to take that into account, that they're going to be able to take that turf. So they're going to build that into their bid, I would think.
Okay,
But if there's somewhere you want it specifically to go, okay.
Just like
it was just curious.
Like a building demo project, a demo contractor will offset some of their costs with what they're going to scrap, so there might be some value in some of the metal, for example. So sometimes you'll see that with the contractors.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? No? Administration? No?
I-
Well, we just keep moving forward. Thank you.
I did have a question for the board.
Sure.
So you're gonna have new bleachers right on your property line, 11 Mile. So you're gonna drive by, you're gonna see underneath. And one of the things we're talking about bidding out as an alternate is to screen that.
Oh, like that black screen that's hung on the fence,
Well, no, it'd be
or green?
Lakeview gray or blue with
Blue.
the logo on it if you want.
Oh, there you go.
But one example of it is, I think it's Birmingham, I don't think it's Groves, I think it's the other facility, they had something like that. It's gonna be 15 feet to the press box floor,
Okay.
right on the property line tall, and you're gonna be able to look into that area. And there's screens that allow you to see through, but screen most of the views into the bottom of that. So if you're not opposed to that, we'd like to bid that out as an alternate, be able to kind of be good neighbors to the street.
Would the screen go on the fence, or would the screen go on the structure itself? Or is the structure right at, would the fence be on the
will
structure?
be about 4 feet off property line. So
Okay.
you'll have sidewalk, the fence, which is a foot off, and then another 3 feet will be your structure for the bleacher.
Will there be,
The screen would be on the structure of the bleacher.
okay. And will there be access for people to get behind the bleachers, between the fence and the bleachers, under the bleachers? Or is that can be secured like it is now with fencing where you can't get under there?
Because the bleachers are pushed, the plan is to push them right up against the fence, which is along the track, so that you can't walk
Okay,
in between the track and the bleachers. There's 2 exits that actually go through the bleachers, and will then allow you to exit underneath the bleachers out either way.
so you go into the middle of the bleachers and then come down the center?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there'll be access in part because you need it for egress, because you have
Mhm.
1,800 people. So you just can't have 2 off of each side, you gotta go through the middle as well, in and out.
So there'll be 4 exits on, or one in the middle and one on each
One of the
end?
ones in the middle will be a handicap accessible ramp.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So we'll put some fencing in that can be used for storage, but most of that underneath, it'll be all concrete. And so they'll be able to get underneath there and walk. So if you don't want to walk up on the bleachers and then back down to get to the other side, you can go around underneath.
Okay, good stuff. Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good evening. All right, moving on with the agenda, personnel. Item A, exempt central staff supervisor, special education salary grid.
During the 22-23 Administration identified the need to add an additional position to the exempt central office employee group as a result of increased numbers of students receiving special education services, a larger number of staff to service our students, and increased reporting and compliance requirements. As a result, the recommendation to add the position was brought forward to the Personnel Subcommittee in the spring, and support was given for moving forward with the hiring of this position. The creation of the new position required administration to develop an appropriate compensation structure based on market conditions and like positions throughout the metro area. The attached salary grid is in alignment with the salary structure already developed for the other positions in the exempt group with respect to comparable compensation steps and salary lanes for advanced degrees. Therefore, administration is bringing forward a recommendation to approve the supervisor of special education position to the exempt central office salary grid as listed. All other exempt central office contract benefit and ancillary compensation areas previously approved by the board in January of 2023 for all exempt positions will also apply to this position within the supervisor tier.
Mr. President, I move that the Lakeview Board of Education approve the addition of the supervisor of special education salary grid as presented.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bear, support by Ms. Taylor. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? I'm not used to writing 4-0. Okay, moving on to item B, changes in personnel.
Tonight, administration is bringing forward the following changes in personnel since the last presentation to the Board of Education on July 11th, 2023. Promotion, Sean Coopers, Jefferson Middle School, Harmon Elementary School, Dean of Students. New hires, Megan Myers, Lakeview Public Schools Supervisor of Special Education. Mary Campbell, Wheat Preschool Early Childhood Special Education Teacher. Olivia Charette, Lakeview Public Schools Elementary Specials Teacher. Alexandra Lake, Lakeview Public Schools Elementary Special Education Teacher. Emma Parks, Princeton Elementary School Teacher. Ashley Pearson, Jefferson Middle School Special Education Teacher. Beth Obermisick, Jefferson Middle School Teacher. Julie Stevens, Jefferson Middle School Secretary to the Principal. Returning Federal Grant Facilitator, Catherine Newman. Resignations, Michelle Biggerstaff, Lakeview Public Schools Speech Language Pathologist, Heather Lara, Lakeview Public Schools Special Education Social Worker, Angela Hodgson, Jefferson Middle School Paraprofessional, Erin Whiteoff, Wheat Preschool Paraprofessional. Schedule B returning and coaches sponsors as listed. Schedule B new coach and sponsors, Jennifer Shinska, both as the Lakeview High School Marching Band Camp Assistant, as well as the Marching Band Season Assistant. Unified Girls Hockey Tri-District, Jenilyn Pangborn, St. Clair Shores Unified Girls Hockey Head Coach, and Morgan Hatcher, Unified Girls Hockey Assistant Coach.
Mr. President, I move that the Lakeview Board of Education approve the changes in personnel as presented.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Taylor, support by Mr. Asia. Discussion on the motion.
I just have one question. With the Unified Girls Hockey, which is amazing that we have this, and I'm really excited about it. I see that the amount that's being paid out is a little bit more than what we pay, I think, traditionally here. Is that because it's unified?
No, those amounts are consistent with what's identified in Schedule B for the boys' unified coaches.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Item C, teachers' I'm
we-
sorry, do we have any?
We do.
Here we go again.
We do, remember, this is one of my favorite parts, don't let me skip it. I'm going to start off with Megan Myers. Megan, if you would stand up, I'm going to just say a couple of things about you. Megan, we're really thankful that you approved it because she's already been working, so whew, it's always hard to tell people they're not going to get paid after they've done work. So Megan's joining us, obviously, tonight. Now she's official as our supervisor of special education. Megan comes to us with her doctorate of education in special education from Western Michigan, where she also has a master's and a bachelor's, all in special education and elementary education. So she's most recently worked in Troy as a teacher consultant, has had a wide variety of experiences that she's bringing to the table that's going to really round out our team very nicely. And she has hit the ground running and is not afraid of hard work, so she's going to fit right in. So we welcome you, Megan, and you did bring a guest. Would you like to introduce?
Sure. This is my very awesome, amazing, supportive husband, Matt. I'm just very excited to be here. Thank you all for being so welcoming. I've met a lot of people, and there's a lot of people that I haven't met, so I'm excited to get to know all of you.
Very nice. Great. Yay. So we have Alexandra Lake, who's here as well. Alexandra, I want to say a couple of things about her. I'm always impressed with the caliber of folks who are ending up in our interview pools and our candidates. It makes our decisions extremely hard, and when we're bringing folks to you for approval, it's after going through a very rigorous process. And so Alexandra's gone through those many steps that we have in our interviewing and our hiring process, and we bring her tonight because she's so really ready for this position, and we're excited to have her. She has her bachelor's from Central Michigan University. She has her master's in teaching with a focus with cognitive impairment endorsement from Wayne State. She has worked in a neighboring school. I'm not going to say which one that is because I go out there and I'm always worried that my tires are going to be flat when we're taking folks from other districts around, but we're extremely excited to have you, and we know you're going to do a great job and be a great addition to our team. So thank you and welcome.
Did you bring anybody with you this evening?
I do not.
Oh, okay.
My husband told me to girl.
Yeah, that's an important job too, right? That's what allows you to be here, so.
Thank you so much.
And we have Emma Parks in the back there, so if Emma would stand up. And so Emma is coming to us. This is always an exciting part. We're always very excited about grabbing people from places where they are coming with experience and working other places. But we're also equally as excited when we have folks that are new to the profession who are recent graduates, which is Emma. She has graduated, jumped right in and doing some subbing, and so she did a long-term subbing position for the second semester. And so when she came to the group and the interview team sent her forward, it was for a different position, and she didn't get that position. And I said to her, Emma, it's not you. It's a really competitive group of candidates. So I want you, please, 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 watch our website and look for other positions. And if we post them, I really hope that you'll consider reapplying. And she did, and we were thrilled. And we brought her in, and we snatched her up as quick as we could. Her enthusiasm and passion for kids came through loud and clear. And Justin came and did a second interview with me that time, and she was, I don't even think the door had closed, and he and I were looking at each other saying, let's do it, let's pull the plug. And so we're so thrilled to have you joining us, and we know that you're going to just really do great things for kids over there. So welcome aboard. And you do have a row back there.
Brother Brendan.
Yeah.
My other brother Nolan.
Yes.
My mom Sue and my dad Rusty.
Fabulous. Very nice. Good. And last but not least, who's here this evening, Julie, you're back in the back there. Will you stand up? So Julie is not joining us in the teacher ranks, but just as importantly, she is joining us in the secretarial ranks and going to be going over to Jefferson. I see Amanda over there with that great big smile on her face because I think she's ready to just like grab her as soon as we finish and drive her over to Jefferson. So Julie, we had some really great conversations about her skill set and the things that she brings to the table. And I was thrilled when I made the offer and she accepted, because I'm not going to lie, I was a little worried you wouldn't, because you come with so many great things that I was like, oh, she's really marketable. I hope she's not applying anywhere else. And so. No, she's already stuck. She's here. She's stuck. And so we're really excited to have her joining us, and I know Amanda and the Jefferson team is as well. And so congratulations. And who did you bring as your guest tonight?
I brought my son, Caden.
Yes.
Who is going to be a seventh grader at Jefferson. And I have my mom, Cecilia.
Nice.
Yes, fabulous. Fabulous.
This new path, I've been in corporate America my entire working career, so being in the school education route is something I'm not used to, but
Yeah.
I'm so excited to begin.
You're going to love it. You're going to love it. Yay, good job. So those are our new hires. Our last person here is not a new hire by any means. So Sean, if you would stand up. Sean Coopers is a familiar face around the district. He has worked his way up through the ranks and earned this position in multiple different ways. Sean has embraced the opportunity to grow personally and professionally. He has taken feedback from many, many mentors around the district about how he could continue to fill his toolbox with additional tools. He's looked for leadership opportunities and really participated in all different kinds of facet, from curricular to other teacher leadership roles. And so he comes to us now, leaving his teacher ranks, which I know my own kids had him, and kids love him. But now they will love him in his new capacity as he joins us and as Dean of Students and shares his skills with even lots more kids. So we congratulate you, and you have a guest as well. Very good. Congratulations. All right. And that should be all of our folks who are on the list tonight.
Awesome. Thank you. Congratulations to all those new hires this evening, and welcome aboard.
Yay.
Okay, moving on to item D, employee handbook adoption.
I think we skipped C.
Oh, we go back to that one.
Okay, we can.
Teachers master agreement changes, elementary card marking, records day language revision.
There we go. District administrators and the District School Improvement Committee worked with building school improvement committees and central staff over the past year on identifying the most appropriate instructional, assessment, progress monitoring, and reporting system timeline to best align with student needs and state mandated reporting deadlines. As a result, the recommendation was brought forward to switch from the district's current four-card marking structure to a three-card marking structure going forward at the elementary level only. The teachers' collective bargaining agreement includes language in various articles and sections that specifically references four-card marking periods at the elementary level. Therefore, administration worked collaboratively with the Teachers Association leadership to identify needed contract revisions to address the change from four-card marking periods at the elementary level to three. Tonight, administration brings forward a recommendation to adopt the identified language changes in the teachers' collective bargaining agreement to accommodate the shift from the four-card marking to three-card marking structure at the elementary level only.
Mr. President, I move that the Lakeview Board of Education approve changes to the Teachers Master Agreement 2022 through 2025 for the four-card markings to three-card marking structure at the elementary level only, as presented.
Is this in line
Can we
with?
ask questions?
Yeah, I want to ask questions first.
We don't have an approve here. We only have a motion. We don't have a second. No second? All right, the motion dies. Okay, moving on to item D, employee handbook adoption.
I'll support the motion. I just want to be able to ask questions.
Well, you can ask questions once it's supported.
I will support the motion.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bear, support by Ms. Taylor.
Okay, my question comes as, how does this affect their seeing on progress? I don't understand how 3 is better than 4. I feel like 4 kids have the opportunity to see more often where they're at, and 3, they kind of might get lost in the mix. So just tell me why the decision was brought and how it helps the kids.
Sure. Like we talked about when I shared back in June all of our testing, we are doing much more assessment of our kids than we ever have before. And so instead of just having those report cards as our times to share out progress, we're sharing it out in lots of different ways and much more often. The way that we were currently doing it, we're over-testing kids, and then we have less time for instruction. So all we're doing is really realigning with the testing procedures that are already in place from the state.
So in your, obviously, professional opinion, you feel that this is the best mechanism? You don't feel like kids are going to get left out? There's actually going to be more updating them than they would with the 4 semesters because the testing will fall in better? Is that what you're saying?
And because it aligns better. So we will still have 2 rounds of conferences with parents, so that's still the same. But we're going to have those at slightly different times. We're going to get to see parents sooner this way so that we can share concerns, and really more importantly, share some of the academic interventions that we're going to be doing with kids, with parents face-to-face in October instead of December. And so we feel like by shifting the way that we are reporting out, it's giving parents more information sooner, and more importantly, it's giving us information at times that we can make much more immediate adjustments to instruction and to intervention for kids who need it.
Okay. I think that that's a good idea, obviously, having the communication earlier. Is there going to be something that is, like, some kind of mechanism to measure this over the next 2 years to see if it's comparable to a 4-year, if it's better, so that when we do get to 2025 and we want to see if this continues on or move to a high school or middle school, that we have some kind of data?
I think we could definitely rely on some surveys and talking to parents like that. I think the other thing that's important to remember is that report cards are just one way we communicate, and often they're kind of a little bit late, right, at the end of the semester, at the end of the school year. So we're really looking at all of our communication mechanisms to make sure that we are responding much more quickly. So for example, we do NWEA testing. We're looking at other testing that is much more responsive, especially to our younger kids, to show growth and more measurable intervals so that we can respond more immediately. So when our parents come in October, we'll be able to share all of our beginning of the year data with them, including what type of specific intervention plan we have. And then we'll be able to share when we've met and looked at who are those interventions working for. And one of the things that we're piloting this year will give us printouts that we can send parents every 2 weeks if your child's struggling. Are they making growth in reading? Are they making growth in math? So we're looking at a whole lot of other ways besides that end of the quarter or end of the marking period kind of checklist to report out, and much more importantly, to make sure that we're responding. We don't want the report card to be, I hate to use the term, but I've heard it called the autopsy, right? It's too late to fix it. We're looking at how do we communicate with parents and how do we respond to needs much more quickly so that we're still making an impact before it's the end.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And soliciting the parents' help too, early, right? What can you do at home? And the systems that are already in place doing those things refining those and updating them based on the idea of 3 card markings, and how the work will still be getting done with the staff communicating out with parents. Because we have many more tools to do that.
But to the point you were saying sooner, the quarterly report cards would be coming out every roughly 45 days, school days. And what we're going to do is we're going from 45 to roughly 60 days.
So we.
That's less frequent.
Right. So we are going to be having our initial conversations with parents earlier in the year so that we can communicate much sooner, October, as opposed to conferences used to be early December. So we thought that was important because conferences don't always have to line up with when we're sending home the report card. The other thing about report cards is parents don't even, we always have a large group of parents who don't even go online and access them. And so we want to have information and data that we're sharing with parents that's actionable and meaningful and that's much more immediate. Some of the other things that we're looking at is how else are we communicating with parents' progress? When we have done surveys, just last year we did a survey at the beginning of our MTSS work, and that was an area across the district that parents identified that they didn't always know how their children were doing, even with the report card structure we had. Either they didn't know what was going on in the classroom, like day to day, or they just didn't have a good sense of what was going on. So we think it's important that, yes, those marking periods, those are nice times to kind of check in and see where we're going, but we also want to make sure that throughout the entire year, we're giving more immediate data. And report cards, again, they're just not, I don't want to say they're not the best, but they're one way to share information with parents. And in the age of Power School and parents being able to get online and check grades, we have lots of other ways of sharing information with parents besides just the report card. And again, if you guys saw how much these little kids are testing, sometimes it would break your heart, 5- and 6-year-olds spending hours a year testing. And we don't want to over-test kids. And so when our state benchmarking doesn't align with our 4-quarter system, we're extra testing kids. So babies are spending more time testing and less time getting the education and the help that they need. And that's what really started this conversation was, we just got done with a cycle of testing. We have report cards in 3 weeks. Now we're going to test them all again when we just got this data a month ago. So really wanting to make sure that we're being mindful of what's developmentally appropriate. 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds shouldn't be testing more than they're learning, right? But also wanting to make sure that we are aligning our systems to make the most of it. And you know, when we research the districts around us, lots of districts have gone to this in Michigan at the elementary level for all the same reasons, because the state is dictating when we do the benchmark testing, so we want to better align our systems.
You mentioned parents logging into Power School to look things up.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a tool where you can get a report on it to say how many parents are actually logging in to see anything? And if so, what would you say the percentages of families out there that are actually logging in at the elementary level?
We'd have to ask Linda that, but what teachers have reported anecdotally is that a lot of parents are not taking advantage of the tools. And I think some of that is we need to do a better job of maybe helping them with the tech pieces and things like that. But I also think that we, as educators and as our team, want to do a better job of making sure that we're communicating how students are doing in Power School in more consistent ways. So this is not the whole picture, right? This is one part of really trying to improve our assessment systems, our reporting systems, and making sure that we're communicating with parents. So like Mr. Paulson said, so they can partner with us as we identify kids who need help and what we're going to do to help them.
The other part that Ms. Woods is talking about is the appropriateness of the amount of instructional time that we allow in a card marking piece. And when we're pulling out times that are now spent on testing instead of instructing, it means that we have less time to really have kids mastering skills. And even another piece of that piece is less times for them to be doing activities that are doing assessments that are figured into the grading. So what happens, and some of us that are parents have experienced this with our own kids, in periods where it's a shorter time and there's less things that are in that grading book, because they haven't had the time to do multiple touches on those standards, it actually hurts that student because their grade is being figured on much less, so that impact is a lot larger. And it's not really as reflective of their mastery of skills. It's their reflection of, I really didn't have enough assessments in that time period because I ran out of time and had to mark a grade. So we feel that that's going to help that as well, of really focusing on what's really important, which is the mastery, not how many times we're marking. It should be a truer reflection of where kids' knowledge, what they know, what they can do at the end of that period.
So we keep hearing about how far kids got behind because of COVID. And from what you're saying, in my mind, I see this as helping pull these kids through better.
Absolutely.
Post-COVID, get them where they need to be, maybe not in 1 year, 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, we're trying to be much more responsive to where individual students are, and that's why assessment is good, right? Kids don't slip through the cracks, and we have all kinds of systems for that. But once we have that assessment information, we need to make immediate changes, and we need to communicate that with parents. And I think that report cards used to be our best mechanism of reporting, and they still have a place. But when we're testing children, in formal ways 3 times a year, and we're reporting that information to parents, that's important information. Then we add our students who are in 3rd through 5th grade who are taking M-STEP. Our 5th graders take 4 separate M-STEP tests over 2 weeks in May. That's a lot of testing for kids. So we want to make sure that we are using that data and reporting that data and giving parents the information they need. This isn't about giving parents less information, but it's about making sure that we're increasing instructional time by not testing these poor babies to death, and making sure that we're utilizing other mechanisms in addition to the report card to keep good communication with parents. When we were growing up, our parents weren't getting remind texts from teachers, right, or like dojo updates and things. So we have lots of ways that we communicate with parents to let them know how their kids are doing in addition to report cards, many more than we used to have. So the idea isn't less communication, it's that we're kind of shifting communication and using other methods, but more importantly, making sure that the focus is on teaching and learning and making sure kids get what they need.
Text messages.
Yeah.
Back in my day, it was the rotary phone. That was it.
Was this who brought forth, were the teachers addressed on this? Did they have any feedback on this? Was this their idea?
Absolutely. Actually, during my first year here, it came up several times. Teachers brought it to me, just seeing kind of the inconsistency from our testing calendar,
Heather Schultz is back.
Heather's like nodding. Yeah. Oh.
Because they're the ones doing this. I just want to make sure that this wasn't like,
Absolutely.
start next
It
week.
came up several times, and then as an added kind of layer to make sure that people had a chance, all of the B6 got basically a presentation of what was being discussed, and were given a chance to ask questions and to express concerns, and then it was brought back to DSIC to have further conversations. So this wasn't anything that was made quickly. We really wanted to make sure that we were doing the right thing for kids for the right reasons, and teachers felt very strongly that this was going to be better for children, it was going to increase instructional time, and it was going to allow us to, like I said, better align systems.
If that was in there probably, in this sheet, I probably would have seconded it quickly, so.
Maybe.
Exactly.
That would've-
Do you want to
that would've helped
estimate
us
how,
quicker.
what kind of support this would have with the 120 elementary teachers?
No. Because I don't want to be wrong.
Well, in the grade level meetings, you'd see 10 people, and 10 people were all in favor, you know?
The vast majority of people, I mean, you're never getting 100% of people to join into anything, right? But what Laura's saying over there are so many ways that we, and I'm not part of this because, as you all know, I teach secondary, but there are so many ways that we are able to communicate progress with parents, that the amount of time that's taken out of instruction to put together a report card, that sometimes, as they're saying, especially at the beginning of the school year, comes too soon, right? You haven't had enough time to actually figure out baseline, do interventions that are necessary to get anywhere by the end of October, right? So this is allowing more time so it's more authentic. Yes, many, many, many people are very on board with this. I think that Corey Sherry will jump to the phone.
And I
If we asked him to right now.
I really appreciate that level of communication, just talking about how it limits the testing, I think is a fantastic thing, so that kids are getting more instruction, like Ben had said, I'm sorry, Pete, yes.
All good.
I apologize. As Pete had said, had this been on here, I would have just grabbed it up right away. Just looking at it and going, 3, and you're looking at it from a board standpoint, and we always think, obviously, more is better, but in this situation, 3 is actually more, because they're getting more time. And so I really appreciate that, and I'm sure everybody who's watching at home really appreciates that communication as well. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Welcome.
No? Anything else you want to add to it? No?
No,
Okay.
thank you.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Well done. Thank you.
Was that some sound coming out of the phone?
Ask me one more time, do you think it'll go?
Okay, employee handbook adoption.
The Human Resources Office has been working over the past year to develop an employee handbook for all employees. The document summarizes many policy and employment-related issues. It will provide a written copy of key policies and procedures pertaining to district staff. The handbook also addresses procedural and legal responsibilities for staff and outlines district expectations in various areas. We are excited to be able to be responsive to feedback from employees who have indicated that an employee handbook would assist them in having a resource to refer to and provide direction and communicate expectations. The handbook was developed through collaboration between several different employees, reviewing other business and nonprofit handbooks, and with administrative review. Administration also agrees that the adoption of a district employee handbook will be an asset going forward, and therefore is recommending the adoption of the attached employee handbook to begin being utilized in the fall of 2023.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve adoption of Lakeview Public Schools Employee Handbook as presented.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bear, support by Mr. Asia. There's one revision at our places this evening in the book as well. Comments on the motion?
I will just add, this would become part of what we call administrative guidelines in the long term, and the minor changes that would come up periodically throughout in the future wouldn't necessarily have to come back to the board, but because it's the first time we're creating it, we wanted to have it be a board-approved item, and then we can make minor edits to it as needed down the road.
Cool. Any other comments? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Good stuff. Thank you. Item E, tentative 2023 through 2026 master agreement contract, LESPA, paraprofessionals.
This evening, administration is bringing forward a recommendation regarding the paraprofessionals master agreement with Lakeview Educational Support Personnel Association, MEA-NEA. I am pleased to report that the Board of Education negotiating team has reached a tentative agreement. The tentative agreement includes the highlights as listed.
Mr. President, I move that the Lakeview Board of Education approve the tentative agreement with the changes as listed for the Lakeview paraprofessionals represented by Lakeview Educational Support Personnel Association, MEA-NEA.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Taylor, support by Mr. Asia. Discussion on the motion. Once again, lots of work. Well done. Thank you. Congratulations to the parapros as well and their team in bringing this forward to us this evening. I know these always have their pluses and minuses, and as you grind through it, we come to a conclusion, and here we are this evening. So thank you. Any other comments from the board? Administration?
No, it was a collaborative effort, and we're thrilled to have reached tentative agreement, and more importantly, before the paras are coming back to start their next contract year. So
Awesome.
that is a good thing.
Great. Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. We're going to do one more item under curriculum, then we'll take a 5-minute recess. District Handbook for Students and Parents, Guardians of the 23-24 school year.
Presented to the Board of Education this evening are the annual revisions to the district handbook for students and parents and guardians for the 23-24 school year. These revisions are submitted by administration.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve the revisions as submitted for the 2023-2024 district handbook for students and parents and guardians.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Taylor, support by Mr. Baird. Discussion on the motion. Again, good stuff. Thank you. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we will, for the record, it is 8:44. We will reconvene at 8:50.
Oh, C&G's out there. I didn't notice her. I didn't notice her before. Well. Right.
None of you guys have poker faces over there. You guys all are like, I'm like, oh, God. No, congratulations to the whole school district, right? That's fantastic. I mean, she's starting with 32 credit hours. Like,
Oh.
yeah, I'm elated. You have no, and I mean, like, they all actually count at Michigan, which is huge. A lot of times, you know, they won't take certain AP. I mean, she did do really well on her AP exam, so. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's, I mean, not that, right, exactly, exactly. Uh-huh.
We had 65 people down on the weekend.
Mhm.
This guy, I was doing a little quick overview presentation to this guy. Mr. Paulson, I need to say something on behalf of, on that topic, because you didn't make this, you didn't mention this. Well, one of my sons graduated, he actually, between his, you know,
AP and dual.
he said, he has a 4-year scholarship. And he's walking in the door with 2 years down. They're telling him, as a senior now,
Get your master's paid for.
do your master's degree right now on the scholarship. I mean, do you know how much money that is?
It is. It's
Not
huge.
heard that story before.
Well, not only that, I mean, it gets them in the door because it shows that they're willing to take those curriculum classes. You know, it gets them that much further ahead, and I mean, just,
Well, to be honest, one of the reasons was, Wayne State had 5 or 6 so he started playing this year for their off-campus programs, which is the time they were doing teacher ed stuff or 12 mile. It's like
right.
doing a 19 mile, and they have orchard like it's off site, you know, more of an innovator trying to.
Yeah.
And so when I was as vice president, so for the practice meeting with the off-campus person, I go, if I could put 60 kids in 2 sections, would you put your professor in the high school? And he's like, I don't see why not. It was just
Yeah.
that simple, like that question.
Come to the sides like this.
Right, yeah.
You know, that's a class that
Yeah.
feeds any.
Right, if he, and that's one of the classes that Ava took, and now she gets to take abnormal psych her first year, which she's really excited, so. But I mean, she got calculus, she got biology, she actually got 10 credit hours or 11 credit hours in biology, because she took one at, Macomb, and then the AP here, she got statistics, English literature, government, I mean, just
Well, and those
calculus.
Those hard science classes, a lot of times were either 3 credit lecture or 2 credit class, 5 credit class.
Right,
Yeah, that was,
and she did really well in AP exams too, which obviously put her in a good position. So, but, you know, that's all the school and allowing that to happen. And, you know, what I didn't realize is she could have taken up to 10 classes dual enrollment, which probably would have put her at the 2 years already done.
right, with AP and special.
And it doesn't affect her eligibility, so she can play
Oh, right, right.
softball, even though she has the 2 years under her belt, she can play still for 4 years. So that's huge for an athlete too.
Right, right, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, you know, part of the big interest was, we have so many kids whose family members never went to college.
yeah, right. Oh, I was the first one in my family.
And these bright kids getting the chance to transition. I want to get experience.
I like the transition
You know,
part because
I'm
this
like,
is, right.
I've got a professor, those needed 3 tests.
Yep.
It's not like
It's a different level of communication too, like, you know,
Yes.
with the meeting with a professor, then meeting with a teacher.
They feel that experience and they see that they're successful, which they're certainly capable of. They're doing it in an environment that's more to their liking
Yes,
initially.
I agree.
And they're, I can do this.
Yes.
And now going off somewhere else, whether it's Wayne State or anybody else.
Yeah.
They're able to say, I can do it.
Right, it's exciting.
That's an important
It
part.
really is exciting.
That was really, you know, motivated me to really push it. You know, at the time we started, Wayne State was underneath the foundation.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean,
$300-400 for a kid to take a Wayne State class, so all these kids are like,
yeah,
so much so that I'm stuck with counselors for summer. We shuttle kids. We shuttle kids. Like firefighters. I said, many of them are choosing an online version of the class.
because I can't get there.
Because they don't have that transportation factor, or they don't have it reliable enough.
Right.
I said to the counselors, is there a way to work with our 10 classes kids generally? Can we book them? That it's a day. Picks up another one.
Right.
And they were like, you know, their schedule is too funky. I said, would they prefer face-to-face?
Yeah, of course they would, yeah, yeah.
I said, so we'll explore that. Because we can,
Anything to get them in a
if
better
we get
spot.
a good transportation provider,
Yeah, right.
they, you know, handle it, you know, and then you're talking,
Yes,
Okay, we'll get started here. 8:52, Mr. Secretary. Mike? 8:52?
8:52, am I supposed to record that?
Yep. We went into recess at 8:44, back in at 8:52.
Okay.
Okay, back to the agenda, bond implementation, backup server project recommendation.
Lakeview Public Schools has been committed to utilizing technology in the most efficient and beneficial manner. The district has been fortunate that the board and the community have supported the purchasing of a significant amount of technology, hardware, and software over the years through the allocation of bond and general fund dollars amounting to millions of dollars over the last 20 years. There have been various server purchases and upgrades throughout the years in order to prolong the life and functionality of the district servers. However, the current backup server is at the end of its physical life and must be replaced. The current server will also be out of warranty at the end of October with no additional supports available from the manufacturer, putting the district at risk. The district's backup server ensures data protection, disaster recovery, compliance, and risk management. In addition, the district would benefit from increased capabilities for backing up and archiving data as a result of an upgraded server operating system. The hardware equipment necessary to complete this project has been bid on the state REMC bid and therefore does not require us to conduct an independent local bid. Tonight, administration is seeking approval for the purchase of the backup server project items from Intercom TSG state REMC bid for a total of $27,946.70. This will be funded with the 2022 bond funds. Mark Mullins, District Network Supervisor, and Scott Bruni, Consultant from Wright and Hunter, are here this evening to answer any questions from the board.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve the purchase of the server hardware equipment identified from the state REMC bid in the amount of $27,946.70.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Taylor, support by Mr. Barrett. Discussion on the motion. How much storage are we talking about here? 8 terabytes?
Yeah, we don't use much at all. I know it doesn't seem like a lot of storage, and it really isn't. The backup server has 64 terabytes, probably 50 some odd.
Oh, 8 at 8. Does this get at all cut to tape or anything that goes off-site? Or are these?
Right now, this is a disk-based backup that will be online 24/7 at the high school. I have an off-site backup server that's also disk-based that's here in the administration building. It's on 24/7, and then I have a cold storage disk-based backup that I turn on once a month.
Fair enough. Any other? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, after you.
Okay, what is the longevity of, the life of this? I mean, I know you said 20 years, but I know technology is changing so fast and everything. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, probably about 5 to 7 years. It depends on how long. Like something like this, you don't want to run outside of warranty. So as long as the manufacturer will honor a warranty for it, then you can run it as long as it meets your capacity.
Grade schools, we use it a little bit longer to the end of that useful life as much as possible. But eventually, they will not afford it. We're working without any protection.
Yeah, the last time we bought this piece of equipment was 2010.
Unless it's about 12 years.
I
Okay.
think we were 2011. Yep.
And these are all spin disks?
Yes.
Okay. And, yeah, in the corporate world, in business, your desktop laptops are usually refreshed every 4 years. Your servers are anywhere from 5 to 7. Your network gear was 5, and it's pushed to 6 and 7 years now due to cost, but yet the manufacturers will still warranty it and cover it for you. And this also has hot spares, RAID,
I think that'll be configured in a RAID 6.
so that if one drops, it automatically keeps going. You just have to hot swap a
RAID 6 offers 2 drives worth of protection,
Two.
so you can lose 2 of
Yeah.
the
Okay. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? 4-0. Okay, on to B, virtual cluster server project recommendation.
Tonight, administration is also bringing forward a recommendation to purchase equipment for the virtual server project. This equipment would be a replacement for equipment that is currently outdated, at end of life, and no longer going to be covered under warranty and/or supported by the manufacturer. The purchase of 2 servers that operate as a virtual cluster server system will allow the district to consolidate multiple services on 2 servers as opposed to hosting each service on its own individual server. It also ensures that the district has higher availability, proper load balancing, and system scalability, as well as a means for optimizing processes. Due to the limited size of the project, it was determined that purchasing the items from the Rumsey State bid would fulfill the district's bidding requirement and yield the best price. C-High Computer Products, one of the district's current service providers, is the Rumsey awarded vendor for this equipment and therefore is the vendor being recommended for purchase of the equipment. Administration is recommending the purchase of the virtual cluster server hardware equipment through the Rumsey bid from C-High in the amount of $43,525.66. The purchase will be funded with 2022 bond funds, and Mr. Mullins and Mr. Bruni are here as well to answer questions on this recommendation.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve purchase of equipment for a virtual cluster server system from C-High in the amount of $43,525.66.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bear, support by Mr. Asia. This cluster we're talking about, is that such as a server being set up in a virtual environment, one for each building, or does each building still have their own physical servers?
No, everything has been collapsed back to the high school for quite a few years now.
Okay,
We've got one cluster right now with a solid state sand for storage, and the cluster currently has 3 servers in it. But because of our needs really aren't expanding, and we're actually we've got an on-premise Exchange server right now, and we're gonna be migrating that to Office 365, and that's probably the heaviest usage virtual machine in the cluster. The 2 new servers, they're like, one of these servers has more memory in it than the entire cluster does right now, so we're gonna go from 3 to 2.
okay. So most of the interaction with the buildings is web-based, to use tools out on the web, the internet for
It is.
teaching, and very little is stored on-prem then.
Well, we still do have a file server, but that's also a virtual machine. And that houses all of the various district shared drives, home folders, and whatnot. It also has the domain controllers and application servers.
Fair enough. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item C, vid pack number 9, Lakeview High School classroom flooring installation change order.
Tonight, administration is recommending a change order to city carpet and flooring for replacement of classroom flooring at Lakeview High School, which is to be funded from the 2022 bond fund. During the discussion at the end of the 22-23 school year to prepare for construction and teacher room relocations, it was determined that there were several classrooms which still had carpeting in which are in need of replacement. These spaces were not addressed during the 2001 or 2007 bond. Administration directed Barton Mallow and Partners in Architecture to seek pricing from city carpet and flooring to remove the existing carpet and install new tile flooring in the space. City Carpet provided a unit price of $38,408.32 to add LVT in the spaces of their scope of work. There was also an alternate to install VCT for $27,958.32. VCT is the standard tile in nearly all classrooms throughout the district. Barton Mallow Builders and Partners in Architecture reviewed the proposed change order and found everything to be in order. Therefore, it's recommended that the board approve change order to City Carpet and Flooring for VCT classroom flooring replacement at Lakeview High School in the amount of $27,958.32. And Barton Mallow and PIA are here to answer any questions you may have.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve the change order to City Carpet and Flooring for $27,958.32 as presented.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Taylor, support by Mr. Bear. Discussion on the motion.
I would just like to know, what is the difference between LVT and VCT and the longevity on each?
One's fancier? No. I'll let you guys talk.
Right now, the store is VCT. So it's a 12-inch by 12-inch tile. It requires waxing. Where
LVT doesn't. LVT more expensive. Up front has a wear layer, can scratch. They're much better than they used to be, but it's still a much more expensive product, and it's not a standard tile that you have in your classrooms. So like Sean said, the VCT would match what you're currently doing. They're already in there doing the waxing. They would just continue to wax within those rooms.
Okay, thank you.
And the spaces that these are going into are now being repurposed from, typical computer labs to one's a classroom space, one will be a computer lab. So as a classroom, we kind of decided VCT is probably the way to go.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, does the district have any asbestos tile anywhere, or has that all been replaced?
We actually contacted our asbestos folks about this to say, hey, before we do this, are we, and they said there's not in these spaces. We think we've got almost all of our asbestos tile gone,
Okay.
but there's spaces we're finding that, as we tear into ceilings and different things like that, we still have asbestos in places.
Okay, now I'm talking tiles.
Oh, tile,
We
I
did
think.
a lot of
Maybe on the
flooring.
floor.
We did a lot of flooring and removal when, especially the high school, the 01 bond work, that, under some of the carpeting in the high school, there was some old asbestos tile, but it's all gone now.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Item D, Arc Environmental, removal underground storage tank at Harmon Elementary School.
Tonight, administration brings forward a recommendation to award contract to Arch Environmental Group for oversight and removal of an underground storage tank at Harmon Elementary School. In July, administration was notified by Barton Mallow Builders of a tank that was buried in the front of Harmon Elementary as the site was being prepared for foundation work. Upon further inspection, the tank had a liquid inside, and the need to test before removal of the tank was necessary. Arch Environmental Group was engaged to test the liquid, which was ultimately discovered to be a combination of water and fuel oil. This liquid was considered contaminated and to be properly disposed of, with activity reports sent to the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes Energy, EGLE. With the discovery of the contaminated liquid when the tank was removed, the need to meet proper disposal requirements increased the scope of work needed from Arch. As the tank was removed, it was discovered there had been leakage from the bottom of the tank into the surrounding soils. This increased the scope of work on site, and additional soil testing was now needed, along with proper disposal of the contaminated soils. Arch Environmental provided reasonable proposals to include the additional scope of work required, covering the oversight of the removal of the tank and the liquid for the increased amount of soil testing, contracting for removal of the contaminated liquid, tank, and required reports to be submitted to EGLE. Therefore, administration recommends approval of the oversight contract to Arch Environmental Group in the amount of $49,106.21.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve the contract to Arch Environmental Group in the amount of $49,106.21 for the removal of the underground storage tank found at Harmon Elementary School.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bear, support by Ms. Taylor. Discussion on the motion.
It sounds like it's been done though, like every tank after the fact.
Yeah, we couldn't stop doing this. I mean, this is one of those that we put a shovel in the ground, we found it, we couldn't stop to wait for this board meeting to do it because it already was a 3-week delay before we could get the okay last Friday to fill the giant 14 by 9 by 21 foot hole that this ended up being because of the leakage. So we went with it, and so we're done, hopefully.
In the initial email question for you being pulled, we didn't have all the, I mean, you get more facts when you take the tank out, find the dirt that's got to go with it, right? So.
And the tank had to be cleaned on the inside before it could be hauled off, so it was, the liquid had to be disposed of. Then it was, well, we found the liquid had to be, now you have to clean the tank and properly get it ready to be disposed of. And oh, by the way, now the soil is growing and growing and growing, so we had to get rid of those contaminated soils the proper way. So that's why the scope we call it scope creep. That's kind of what was happening.
Was there a lid on that thing?
There was
I saw a big flat piece of concrete, when they first brought it to our attention, but.
Yeah, there was a spot, and they put a thing down in there and pull it in, and the bottom was kind of rusty, and they said, thankfully, this is the one time that clay soils in St. Clair Shores helped us, because had it been sand, it probably would have sanded more, and we would have had to do a lot more. But they said, your clay soils helped you this time.
And if it's any consolation, I don't believe I've seen this invoice come across my desk, so we technically haven't paid it yet.
Yeah. We paid, I think we paid $3,000 initially, the first day that they were out there to test the liquid. But other than that, yeah, and Arch Environmental does our stormwater management in the consortium through Macomb County, so we already have a relationship with them. So when we made the call, they were able to come out and do that, so.
Okay, cool. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Item E, bid pack number 7, change order, Ardmore Elementary School sanitary structure and pipe replacement.
All right, let me get a drink first. This evening, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following change order related to sanitary structure and pipe replacement at Ardmore Elementary School. Administration brings change orders to the board for consideration that exceed $20,000. This work is being funded through the district bond funds. During the parking lot work at Ardmore, it was discovered that the sanitary structure and pipe need to be replaced due to a deterioration of the existing original structure and line. This condition was unknown until the contractor prepped the parking lot for the improvements at Ardmore. Administration directed Barton Mallow Builders to proceed with the replacement after Partners in Architecture and Barton Mallow Builders reviewed and approved the proposed solution with administration. Therefore, administration recommends formal approval of the change order and increase in price to True North Asphalt contract as presented.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve the change order and contract increase to True North Asphalt for $23,189 as presented.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Taylor, support by Mr. Asia. Discussion on the motion. When it's noted on here, when the parking lot was worked on, I thought the parking lot was pretty much done at this point.
It
When did
was. This was back,
last
in-
summer?
yeah, and this was when Mr. Dumbrow referenced the company that was bought by an LLC. All of those bills could not come to us until they had settled that, so that's why this is coming to you later than it normally would have. It was because of that company being acquired, so. And again, this was one of those, we had to do it because it's open, we have to get it closed up.
I get that, I'm just
Yeah,
questioning the timing. of
Yeah,
this.
that's really what it is.
Okay. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. On to business. Item A, beverage request for pricing.
Tonight, administration is bringing forward a recommendation to approve Coke, our current vendor, as our primary vendor for beverage products for sale during our high school and middle school lunch periods. The request for pricing would serve the district's lunch program for up to 3 school years, 2023-24, 24-25, 25-26, with an option to renew or renegotiate for an additional 3 years at the end of the contract. The district participates in the Macomb Intermediate School District Consortium bid for vending, but the district has had to solicit quotes in the past for the beverage products sold during lunch. MDE school nutrition procurement practices require districts to solicit quotes for small purchases within the cost range of $10,000 to $100,000. The district spends about $40,000 to $55,000 annually. District staff emailed out a request for pricing to 4 vendors, which was due on July 31st, 2023, to seek pricing on a variety of products. The district received 3 responses from Coke, Pepsi, and Gordon Foods. Based on requested pricing sheets submitted by vendors, our current vendor, Coke, is the lowest pricing by as much as $2 to $3 a case, depending on the specific product. Approximate total spending on beverages each of the next 3 years is expected to be between $120,000 to $165,000 under the current food service program rules and regulations. Costs would be covered entirely in the food service fund.
Mr. President, I move that the Lakeview Board of Education approve Coke as our primary vendor for beverage products for sale during lunch service at middle and high school for 23-24, 24-25, 25-26 school years as presented.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Taylor, support by Mr. Bear. Discussion on the motion.
With respect to the whole, I don't even understand what's going on with the free lunch stuff and how that affects, is this like an alternative? Is this included in that? How does that affect us?
So basically, this would be considered what the food nutrition would call other program revenue, and in this case, it's like à la carte type items. So basically, a claimable meal has to have certain components. It has to have the 5 components: a dairy, a vegetable, a fruit, a grain, and I'm missing one. Did I say meat? Meat alternative? Okay, yeah, that's the one. So that's a claimable meal, and at the high school, they have a little bit of, they can have 3 choice of the 5. So these beverages are not part of that. So students, though, can come in and parents can put money on the students' accounts to where if they want, like, and they're all got to be Smart Snack compliant, they all got to be nutritionally compliant. So there's obviously water, there's some of the Powerade kind of things that have the right nutritional values, so it's those types of products. And so within your board packet, when we sent out our bid for pricing, there was a listing of the products and the sizes. So that's basically what we had Pepsi and Coke bid on. And it's only offered at the secondary level, the middle school and the high school level. Elementary kiddos, they only have choices of milk, and they'll sometimes get a juice, because that can be counted as a fruit, in some of the meals. So it's just at the secondary level. And we have to do this because the nutrition program is a very heavily regulated program, and they have different procurement standards, sometimes more extensive, not sometimes, they are more rigorous and extensive than other regular procurement that we have as far as the district goes.
So are these expenses basically paid off by when they're buying these items anyway?
So we have to price the items accordingly to make sure we cover the cost, but the state doesn't look at it as individual. It is separate. It's not part of lunch, breakfast. It's what they consider other program revenue, but it is the fund in total that covers the cost. So it's not dollar for dollar per se. There is a markup. Obviously, we pay X for something and then we charge a little more for the students what they pay, but we do still keep it competitive so that the kids are being able to get it. Now, I will say costs are going up. So I have a feeling we're a little bit reversed right now for what we're charging, because even with this bid that we've done, they're higher than what we've been accustomed to. But we do try and keep the kids' costs as low as we can. It's not like we don't want to make money off it, obviously. And that is not the vending. So there's vending machines throughout the district. And that's not what we're talking about, because we are part of the consortium bid with the ISD on vending. And about 5 years ago, I think, maybe more, they separated it out where they just did the consortium bid on vending, and districts are responsible for any of the product that they sell during lunch periods, and we have to do the procurement process and follow those rules.
My last thing is kind of tangential to this, are you going to send out some kind of communication to the high school parents so that they understand that even though lunches may be free, if that's really what's happening, that there are still expenses that may be seen by kids at lunchtime?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So Carl, Mr. Paulson got the first wave to remind families to still put money on the accounts for the à la carte. So we're still trying to get through some of I didn't talk about this earlier, but it's probably a good forum just to kind of let the community know too, is really the free meals is not fully 100% funded by the federal government. The state has made the decision to do that with their funds that they have available. So there's going to be a state component and a federal component to us getting reimbursed. So with that, there's strings, as normally there are. So there's the CEP program, it's Community Eligibility Program. Lakeview has not participated in that because it was not advantageous, because it would have hurt us funding-wise. But now with the state filling the gap between the federal funding and the difference between what it costs to do the meals, they're requiring us as a district to have any building that is over 40% free and reduced to participate in this CEP program. So that's going to create some differences for 2 of our buildings, where those families are going to have to fill out a different form, as the other families in the other 5 buildings have to do the normal application. And if you have kids in multiple buildings, then you will do the most restrictive, which is the current free and reduced application. And so, yes, a long answer to your short question is we did the snippet to families, but once the auditors leave, I'm still juggling this with the food service team. We do have to get that stuff out, and that's our intent, to get the principals and all that better information. There is literature that the state does have as resources for us, so we're going to peck some of that information and have that disseminated out to the families. And the principals and administrators are going to have to help with that effort.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Item B, 2023-2024 Food Service Program Adult Lunch Price Increase.
The National School Breakfast and Lunch Program is a federal program which is regulated by the USDA and Michigan Department of Education. The adult meal prices are evaluated each year, and as the reimbursement rate changes, the adult meal price needs to be adjusted accordingly to meet the federal government requirements. The 2022-23 student lunch reimbursement rate of $4.42 included a federal reimbursement rate of $4.02 and an extra one-year reimbursement of 40 cents per meal from the Keep Kids Fed Act. The extra 40 cents is removed for the 2023-24 year, with the student lunch federal reimbursement rate increasing to $4.35 for the 23-24 school year. The increase to the reimbursement rate for student breakfast and lunch affects the calculation for our adult meal lunch price, in spite of there actually being a net decrease of 7 cents per student lunch for the student lunch reimbursement rate meal for the 23-24 year. Therefore, the proposed adult meal price is effective for the 23-24 school year as follows. Adult breakfast is going to be increasing from $2.75, which included tax, to $3 for the 23-24 year, which includes tax. For adult lunch, the 2022-23 rate was $4.75, which included tax. It's going to go up in the 23-24 year to $5 a lunch, which includes the sales tax.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve the adult meal lunch price for the 2023-2024 fiscal year as presented.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bear, support by Ms. Taylor. Discussion on the motion.
Who are these meals for?
So if a staff member wants to buy a lunch or any type of a la carte item, for them, it's taxable.
Okay.
So it's going to affect the staff primarily, or other adults in the building.
Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Item C, additional radios, district-wide system purchase.
Tonight, administration brings forward a recommendation to purchase additional radios from Mobile Communications America, formerly ComSource. These radios will expand the number of places and staff with access and improve safety and responsiveness of communications at buildings. This purchase will be funded from school safety grant funds. In March 2019, the district applied for and was awarded a grant from the Michigan State Police to enhance school safety through the purchase of a district-wide two-way radio system. The project was bid and purchased from ComSource to allow administration to develop and implement a consistent set of communication devices and protocols for use. Each radio is programmed and able to be used at any location, but each school has their own secure set of channels to communicate. Central staff radios have the ability to communicate with any building or perform an all-call to all radios in the system if necessary. Since implementing the system, the desire and need for additional radios has increased from the initial purchase. Building-level administration determined the amount of radios needed to improve safety and timeliness of communications, and Mobile Communications America was engaged to provide a quote. MCA is a member of My Deal, which allows purchasing from pre-approved bids on state contracts and streamlines the purchasing process. With the school safety grant funding the district has received, staff plan to purchase the additional radios because they fall within the requirements of the grant. Therefore, it's recommended that the board approve the purchase of 30 additional radios, carrier clips, and charging stations compatible to the district-wide system to Mobile Communications America in the amount of $30,796.75.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve the purchase of additional radios, communications to Mobile Communications America in the amount of $30,796.75.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bear, support by Mr. Asha. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Item D, transportation bid, contract through June 30, 2024.
Tonight, administration brings forward a recommendation to award a district transportation services contract to Divergent Transportation effective August 16, 2023 through June 30, 2024. The need to consider a change in our transportation service provider came after several problems were identified but never resolved satisfactorily. Lakeview staff have been disappointed in our current transportation provider and had multiple meetings with the company over the past 18 months to address problems with service, billing, and communication. In July, administration posted a request for proposal to solicit bid submittals for busing during the school day for extracurricular transportation and field trips. Several companies showed interest. On August 7th, one company submitted a sealed bid. Administration reviewed the bid submittals and conducted a post-bid interview with the president of Divergent. Several members of the central office staff who are involved with student transportation on a daily basis also attended. During the post-bid interview, Divergent Transportation was confident they could meet the level of service Lakeview Public Schools expects from its contracted service providers. The district has used Divergent in varying circumstances the past couple of years for unique or unfulfilled transportation needs, and those experiences have been positive. It is a local company and will have a hub close to our schools. In addition to school buses, Divergent possesses the ability to provide in-house sedan or minivan taxi service, both of which the district has used on a periodic basis. Background checks were also conducted with several references provided by Divergent, all of which came back positive. Based on the pricing submitted, the post-bid interview process, and positive background checks, administration is confident that Divergent will be able to meet the high level of expectation the district has for all of its privatized service providers. The total cost for transportation services each year with special education students, daily specialty program shuttles, athletics, and field trips is approximately $450,000.
Mr. President, I recommend that the Board of Education approve the district transportation contract to Divergent Transportation beginning August 16, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2024.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Taylor, support by Mr. Bear. Discussion on the motion.
What is the difference in our past company compared to this?
As far as pricing, it is. And the difference in costs is mostly in driver's wages. And Dave Howells from Divergent, he's the president, he can answer some of those questions. But they have been pretty aggressive in making sure that they have drivers to fill their buses, so their wages have been increased. And we have experienced times where our current provider do not have drivers to fill their buses because drivers call off, they don't have subs. So, Dave, if you want to talk a little bit about wages or anything, go ahead.
I'm proud to say that we don't have the same challenge with commercial school bus drivers because we have the highest school bus driver wage scale in this state. Our wage scale is currently $25 to $30 an hour for our school bus drivers. It's partly to ensure that it's a livable wage for our team, but it's also to ensure that as a company, we're fully staffed and we don't have challenges that others do. We put the money right into the hands of our staff to make sure that we're able to fulfill the services of all of our district partners.
Is there any kind of guarantee that you give us, like if something does happen where you can't get us the services, does your company pay for somebody else to come in and do it, or what?
We don't have that currently in the program, but I'm sure that's something that Sean would like to incorporate for the district. We'd be more than happy to discuss that.
Okay, thank you.
Are we going to be in any sort of competition with other districts that may be coming on board with you?
This late?
Yes.
No. So we offer a variety of services to different district clients and work with close to half the districts in Macomb at this point. But each of them has a different level of service they require. Some are full outsourcing like you would have, but others are lesser service or differing services that don't have direct competition with what you would need. So no, I don't foresee that being a challenge. In the discussions we've had since the bid went out, we were already internally planning on how we would be staffed, how we'd be prepared to take it on. It's a little shorter time frame than typical for a school startup, but being that we're close by, being that we were already putting some of these things into motion, and for a confidence level, I've worked with the district's transportation starting nearly 10 years ago with a previous contractor. Most of my staff and some of my drivers have also previously worked with this district. So we do not expect a challenge with the turnaround. We're very familiar with the district, the routing, the schools, and on the special needs side, some of the drivers have previously worked in this district and still know those families. So I don't anticipate there being any challenge in startup. Can't promise it'll be 100% smooth and perfect, but we are already putting the work in to ensure that it's going to be a smooth transition for you and for your families and students. And one of our hallmarks is the fact that when issues do arise or there are challenges, we do immediately respond to those. We create those solutions. We do not allow things to drag on. If there's an issue, we face it head on and fix that and ensure that your families and district continue to have the services that you deserve.
Do you have trackers on your buses as to where they are? GPS, yes.
Yep. Our vehicles all have GPS tracking. They'll have camera systems, video camera systems recording, and two-way digital cellular radios. So we know where they are, we know what's happening on those buses, and we communicate with them at any time.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions from the board? No? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, moving on to other requests for closed session, student expulsion, long-term suspension, recommendation number 2022/23DJ.
I move that the board go into closed session.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bear, support by Mr. Ashe to go into closed session. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Bear, aye. Mr. Ashe?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
It's okay.
Ms. Taylor?
Second
Yeah.
by the light.
And Mr. Dombrowski?
Aye.
4-0.
Okay. For the record, it is 9:30. We will go into a brief recess, reconvene at 9:35 into closed session. I would ask that the student and their guardian or parent be in the boardroom when we go into closed session at 9:35.
What was your recess time?
Recess 9:30.